Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3. Today we're going to present about managing the merchandise planning process. Before going to the presentation, let me introduce our group member. First, Adib Rakavindo, Murfid, Rafif, Tascha, Muhammad Farid, Ikbal, and me, Nabil, Albari. For the first presentation will be present by Adib Rakavindo. So Adib, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Uh, our first material is merchandise management. What is merchandise management? Merchandise management is the process by which a retailer attempts to offer the appropriate quantity of the right merchandise in the right place and at the right time, so that it can meet the company's financial goals. Next. Next. Okay, now we move up to the buying organizations. Uh, Actually, every retailer has its own systems for grouping categories of merchandise, but the basic structure of the buying organization is similar for the most retailers. And the merchandise classification level has four level. Or the highest one is merchandise group, second one is department classification, and the last one is stock keeping unit of SKU. KU. For more players, we can see from the organization charts from the next slide. Uh, Here we can see the standard merchandise classification sim or and organizational charts. The highest, we know that the highest classification level is merchandise group. The organization chart shown in the image is has four merchandise groups. Is women apparel, men's, children's, and intimate apparel, cosmetics, shoes, jewelry, and accessories. And the last one is home and kitchen, by a general merchandise manager or GMM. And the second level is department, below the merchandise group. The second level is in the departments are managed by divisional merchandise managers DMMs and have has five or six categories. And the next one is classification. Classification is a group of items targeting of the same customer types. And below the classification is the categories are the next lower level in the next classification shape. Each buyer manages several merchandise categories. Or we can see from the chart is the girl size 4 to 6 buyer managers, the sportswear, dresses, swimwear, and outwear categories for girls who wear size 4 to 6. And the last one in below is stock keeping unit of SKU. Is the smallest unit available for inventory control. In soft goods merchandise, for instance, SKU usually means a particular brand, size, color, and style. And the example is pair of size 5, Prince wash, blue, striped leg, Levi's, jeans, and SKU. Okay, next. Next, we move to merchandise categories or the planning unit. The merchandise category is the basic unit of analysis for making merchandising management decisions. A merchandise category is an assortment of items that customers see as substitutes for one another. The first one is category management. Uh, the category management approach to managing merchandise assigns one buyer or category manager to oversee all merchandising activities for the entire category. Managing by category can help ensure the store's assortment includes the best combination of sizes and vendors, the one that will get the most profit and income for the allocated space. And the second one is category captain. Some retailers select a vendor to help them manage the particular category. The vendor, known as the category captain, works with the retailer to develop a better understanding of consumer shopping behaviors, create assortment that satisfy consumer needs, and improve the profitability of the merchandise category. Next. evaluating merchandise management performance. Merchandise managers have control only over what merchandise they buy, the retailer's merchandise inventory, the price at which the merchandise is sold, and the cost of the merchandise. Thus, buyers generally have control over the gross margin but not operating expenses, such as store operations, human resources, real estate, and logistics and information system. Next. Now, move to GMROI. What is GMROI? GMROI is a financial ratio that assesses a buyer contribution to ROA, is gross margin returns on inventory investment. It measures how many gross margin dollars are earned on every dollar of inventory investment made by the buyer. GMROI comments gross margin percentage and the sales to stock ratio, which is related to inventory turnover. And for example, consider a merchandise category with annual sales of $130,000 at a gross margin or gross profit of 49%. And how to solve it? We know that gross margin to find gross margin is gross margin divided by net sales 49% divided by 130, and we got the average in gross margin is $63,700, and average inventory cost is $40,625, and the GMROI is 63. Gross margin divided by average inventory cost is $1.57. Next. And how to improve in GMROI? To improve GMROI, we have two solutions. First one is to improve inventory turnover or sales to stock ratio. First one is the buyers can either reduce the level of inventory or increase sales. The second one is keep the same number of SKUs but reduce the backup for stock for each SKU. And the third one is buy merchandise more often but in smaller quantities. Why? Because this reduces average inventory without reducing sales. And the last one is increase sales and not increase inventory proportionally. The next solution is to increase gross margin. How? By increasing prices, reducing the cost of goods sold, and the last one is reducing customer discounts. Thank you. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Adib Rakavindo. For the next presentation, will be presented by me. So next is merchandise planning process. As you can see in the picture, the merchandise management process involves buyer forecasting category sales, developing an assortment plan for merchandise in the category, and determining the amount of inventory needed to support the forecast sales and resulting assortment plan. Then buyers develop a plan outlining the sales expected for each month, the inventory needed for the support the sales, and the money that can be spent on replenishing sold merchandise and buying new merchandise. Along with developing the plan, the buyers or planners decide what type and how much merchandise should be located to each store. Having developed plan, the buyer negotiates with vendors and buys the merchandise. Finally, buyers continually monitor the sales of merchandise in the category of and make adjustment. For example, if category sales are less than forecast in the plan and the project GMROI for the category falls below the buyer's goal, the buyer may decide to dispose of some merchandise by putting it on sales and then use the money generated to buy merchandise with greater sales potential or to reduce the number of SKUs in the assortment to increase inventory turnover. Next is type of merchandise management planning system. Retailer use different type of merchandise planning system for managing. First is staple and second is fashion merchandise categories. Staple merchandise categories, also called basic merchandise categories. are those categories that are in continuous demand over an extended time period. Because the demand for staple merchandise is very predictable, merchandise planning system for staple categories often involve continuous replenishment. This system involves continuously monitoring merchandise sales and generating replacement orders, often automatically when inventory levels drop below predetermined levels. Third is fashion merchandise. Fashion merchandise categories are in demand only for relatively short period of time. New products are continually introduced into these categories, making the existing product obsolete. Forecasting the sales for fashion merchandise categories is much more challenging than doing so for staple categories. Buyers for fashion merchandise categories have much less flexibility in correcting forecasting errors. For example, if the tablet buyer for the best purchased too many units of particular model, the excess inventory cannot be easily sold when a new upgraded model is introduced. And the last one is seasonal merchandise. Categories consist of items whose sales fluctuate dramatically depending on the time of year. Some examples of seasonal merchandise are Halloween candy, Christmas ornaments, swimwear, and snow shovels. Next is forecasting category sales. First, forecasting staple merchandise. Forecasting staple merchandise. The approach for forecasting sales of staple merchandise is to project past sales trends into the future, while making adjustments for any anticipated factor such as promotion and weather that may affect future sales. Second, use of historical sales. The sales of staple merchandise are relatively constant from year to year. Those forecasts are typically based on exploring historical sales. Third, adjustment for controllable and uncontrollable factors. Controllable factors include the opening and closing of stores, the price set for the merchandise in the category, special promotion for the category, the pricing and promotion of complementary categories, and the placement of the merchandise categories in the store. Next is forecasting fashion merchandise categories. Forecasting sales for fashion merchandise is challenging because buyers typically need to place orders and commit to buying specific quantities between 3 to 6 months before the merchandise will be delivered and made available for sale. Then in addition, for fashion items, there often is no opportunity to increase or decrease the quantity order before the selling season has ended. Next is previous sales data. Although items in fashion merchandise categories might be new each season, many items in the fashion categories are often similar to items sold in previous years. And then market research buyers. For fashion, merchandise category undertake a variety of market research activity to help them forecast sales. This activity ranges from informal, qualitative research about trend affecting the category to more formal experiment and surveys. Next is fashion and trend services. There are many services that buyers, particularly buyers of apparel categories, can subscribe to forecast the latest fashion, colors, and style. And the last one is sales forecasting for surface retailers. Due to the perishable nature of surfaces, surface retailers face an even more extreme problem than fashion retailer. Their offering perish at the end of the day, not at the end of the season. If there are empty seats when a plane takes off or a road concert ends, the revenue that might have been generated from this seat is lost forever. That is developing an assortment plan. An assortment plan is the set of SKUs that a retailer will offer in the merchandise category in each of its store and from its website. The first is category variety assortment. The assortment plans reflect the breadth and depth of merchandise that the retailer plans to offer in merchandise category. In the contents of merchandise planning, variety or breadth of merchandise category is the number of different merchandising subcategories offered, and the assortment or depth of merchandise in the number of SKUs within subcategory. Second is determining variety and assortment. The process of determining the variety and assortment for a category is called editing the assortment. An example of an assortment plan for girls jeans shown in exhibit 12.4. You can see that in our book. 10 types or variety, skinny or bootcut, distress denim or rinse wash, and their price point reflecting different brands. Okay, that's all for me. For the next presentation, will be presented by Rafif. To Rafif, time is yours.
Okay, Nabil. Next is retail strategy. The number of SKU offer is in a merchandise category is a category decision. For example, all the supermarket focused on customers who are looking for low price and do not care much about brands. So they offer very few SKU in a category. With limited SKU, Aldi can increase its inventory turnover, lower cost, and charge lower price. In contrast, but bias target consumer are interested in comparing many alternatives. So the retailer must be offered several SKU in each consumer electronics category. The next is assortment and GMROE. In developing the assortment plan, buyers need to be sensitive to be the trade-off of increasing sales by offering greater brand and depth and deep, but at the same time potentially reducing inventory turnover and GMRE because of the increased inventory investment. Increasing assortment breadth and depth also can be decreased gross margin. Next slide. The next is complementary merchandise. When buyers develop assortment plans, they need to consider the degree to which category in a department complement each other. For instance, Blu-ray players may have a low GMRE, suggesting that the retailer carry a limit assortment. The next is effect of assortment size on buying behavior. Offering large assortment profit a number of benefit to customers. First, increasing the number of SKU that customers can consider increase the change that will find the product that best satisfies their needs. Second, large consumer are valued by customer because they profit a more informative and simulating shopping experience due to the complexity associated with numerous products and the novelty associated with unique items. Third, large assortment are particularly appealing to consumers who seek variety those who want to try new things. However, offering a large assortment can make the purchase decision more complex and time-consuming and potentially overwhelms the consumers, which could reduce sales. The next is physical characteristic of the store. Buyers need to consider how much space to devote to a category. More space is needed to display categories with large assortments. In addition, a lot of space need to display individuals item in some category, and this limit the number of SKU that can be offered in stores. Multi-channel retailers address space limitation in stores by offering a greater assortment through the internet and catalog channels than they do in stores. Next, please. The next is setting inventory and product availability level. Model stock plan. The model stock plan illustrated in exhibit 12 to 5 is the number of each SKU in the assortment plan that the buyer want to have available for purchase in each store. For example, the model stock plan in the picture includes 9 units of size short, which present 2% of the 4 to 9 to total units for girls, skinny $20, denim jeans, and in light blue. Next is product availability. The number of units of backup stock, also called buffer and safety stock, in the model stock plan determine product availability. Product availability is defined in the percentage of the demand for particular SKU that satisfy. Product availability is also referred to levels of support and service level. Next slide. The next is establishing a control system for managing inventory. First is flow of step merchandise. This picture illustrates the merchandise flow is a sample merchandise management system. At the beginning of week one, the retailer had 150 units of the SKU in inventory of the buyer or merchandise plan placed in order for 96 in additional units. The next is determining the level of backup store. Several factors determine the level backup stock need for an SKU. First, the level depends on the product availability. The retailer want to profit. As discussed previously, more backup stock is needed when the retailer wants to reduce or the change of the stock out and increase availability of the SKU. Next slide. The next is automated continuous replacement. Once the buyer set the desired product availability and determines the variation in demand, and the vendors let the teams rate, the continuous replacement system for staple SKU can operate automatically. Next is inventory management reports. The inventory management report provides information about the inventory manager for staple category. The report indicates the decision variable set by the buyer, such as product availability, the backup stock needed to provide the product availability, the order points, and quantitatively plus performance measures such as plan and actual inventory turnover, the current sales rate or velocity, sales forecast inventory availability, and the amount and order. Next slide, please. Okay, that's all for me. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Rafif. For the last presentation, will be presented by Muhammad Farid Ikbal. To Ikbal, time is yours.
The next we will present about the control system for managing inventory of fashion merchandise. The control system for managing fashion merchandise category are the merchandise budget plan and the upfront plan. The first one, merchandise budget plan. The merchandise budget plan specifies the amount of merchandise dollar, not unit, that needs to be delivered during each month based on the sales forecast, the permanent discount the employee and customer, and the level of inventory needed to support the sales and achieve the result. The next we will discover the open to buy system. After the merchandise is purchased on the basis of the merchandise budget, the open to buy system is used to keep track of the actual merchandise flow, what the present inventory level is when purchased merchandise is successful of delivery, and how much has been sold to customer. The open buy system compares the point end of month inventory, the actual end of the month in inventory. The difference between actual and point level may arise because in order received, let ourselves divide from the forecast. When sales are greater than point, determine how much merchandise to buy. In term dollar, the buyer has available to satisfy the increased customer demand. Next slide, please. Okay, allocating merchandise to stores. After developing a plan for managing merchandise inventory in a category, the next step in merchandise management process to allocate the merchandise purchased and received to retailer stores. The charts indicate the sales allocation design have a much bigger impact profit with thus in decision about the quantity of merchandise purchased. Diffusion about the amount of merchandise allocated. Retail chains typically classify each of their store and the basis annual sales. Thus, a store will have larger sales volume, and typically receive the most inventory, while key customer will have the lowest sales volume and receive at least inventory a category. The second type of merchandise allocated, the demographic of store trading area, are considered in making allocate decision. Consider the allocation decision of traditional supermarket for is ready to eat hero assortment. Some are allocated in areas dominant the assessment called fastball retailers, and others are dominant by the laptop and lamp. So even though sales different apparel size and dramatically from store to store in same chain, retail provide a glimpse of how some fit avenue allocate merchandise to store in the basis of customer characteristics. The next slide, please. The next, we discuss merchandise management performance. The next step in the merchandise planning process is to analyze the performance of the process and make adjustments such as ordering more or merchandise lowering price to increase sales, allocating different assessment to specific store, or changing the assessment and other stock plans. The first one, sell through analyze, evaluate the merchandise plan. A sales truck analysis compares actual and planned sales to determine whether more merchandise is needed to satisfy demand or whether price reduction. These pillars are high-percent items that experience significant occasionally in stores. Thus, after 2 weeks in the stores, the buyer reviews sales and determines if adjustments are needed. Buyers will use Lonjo Revive target for merchandise with an extended fashion cycle. The need to make adjustment depends on a variety of factors. The next, evaluate the assortment plan and vendors. An ABC analysis identify the performance of individual SKU in the assessment plan. It is used to determine which SKU the SKU should be in the plan. Finally, the buyer discovered that so many 21% of the security items have virtually no source until they are marked down. Not only this item merchandise and unproductive investment, but they also distract from the rest of the inventory and alter the store sold. The buyer decided to eliminate most of the items from the assortment plan. The next we discuss about the multi-attribute method for evaluate vendors. The multi-attribute analyze method for evaluate vendors use the weighted average score for each vendor. The score is based on the importance of various issues and the vendor's performance on those issues. The method is similar to Murfid reward approach that can be used to understand how customer approach store or merchandise as we discussed. Next slide, please. Okay, that's all for me. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Ikbal. I think that's all for our presentation. Thank you for your attention, and we're sorry for our mistake. So let we end this presentation with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat datang.